very often your organization will have many different workflows and many different schedules running at the same time. They're performing tremendous amount of transformations and operating on hundreds or even thousands of columns. What do you do then, right? How can you inspect your transformations? How can you make sure they're all correct? Well, for that purpose, Prophecy provides the lineage functionality. I'm very excited to show you as well. So we have this project set up here, Spark Summit demo, which has two workflows and few data sets, which those workflows are processing. Now, normally to understand what's going on here, you would need to dive into the code, see what the Spark read operations are, what the Spark write operations are, and figure out from the code what's actually happening there. With Prophecy, however, to inspect what this complete project is doing, you can actually just click on this small lineage icon directly within our datasets and jump within the lineage view. That immediately shows you how this dataset is being created, how is it used, and which workflows modify it. And of course, I can just keep jumping between datasets, just like that. I can see how they're being created, what they use. All of that is tracked within the history on the left-hand side, so I can just go back and forth. I can inspect, of course, the columns of each of my data sets. I can see them right here. And if I would like, I can actually select a particular column and see how it's being transformed. So if I, for instance, select the last name column within my customer's dataset, I see all the transformations right here. In this case, just downstream transformations. I can see this column is being changed because it's highlighted as red within this customer amounts workflow, and it is being written to my report. I can actually deep dive into this workflow and see how it is being transformed within it. So I can open up any of the components and inspect the code right here. The code is also automatically highlighted for me so that I know exactly which pieces of code are performing the transformation. Now let's go back a little bit and let's think about two different examples when Lineage becomes tremendously useful. One example is, for instance, when we have some PII data within our data sets, right? So a very common example, there is a tremendous amount of customer data that you would not like to reveal or store in particular data targets. Right now within my customers data set, I have here this customer SSN column. To understand how it's being used and when it's written, it's as simple as just clicking on that column and I can directly see that it's being written into my customer SSN dataset. It is not, however, being written into my report. That's great. So downstream users won't be able to see it. And it is not used anywhere else. I can also inspect the actual workflow, see how is it being transformed, if at all. And I can see that there is no transformations applied on my SSN column. It's just a simple pass-through. Cool. That will make the life of people who are checking the compliance and ensuring the workflows work well much, much easier. The alternative example is a much simpler debugging example, right? So as a developer, I have many columns that I need to make sure are correctly transformed. For instance, if I have a column amount that I would like to understand how it's being created, now it's as simple as just going to any particular data set that I think might contain it, choosing that column, I can see how it's being modified. So I can see that on the upstream, the amount column is just created as a sum of amounts. There is actually another sum that's going on in the downstream, but I can just click into the workflow and inspect that right here. And I can see that there is an aggregate sum amount. Now that allows me to much easier and quicker debug through complex data pipelines. Okay, so with that, we've just shown and how easy it is to understand your complex data transformations with Lineage.